teach Gen Z, and they're interesting because they'll respect your pronouns but not you as a person.
There's places in this country right now where people are arguing about gender pronouns. How stupid is that? People will argue with you about how you ask them to address you. In New York, nobody's arguing about that. Because we've been dealing with people thinking they're a different person our entire lives. You want me to call you they? I'll call you they. There's a crackhead in my neighborhood, I gotta call Beyonce. That's what he go by. He used to be Henry. One day he changed it. No warning. We was like, good morning, Henry. He was like, it's Beyonce. Then he pulled his dick out, started peeing on the bus. And we respected it. We was like, oh, lemonade. Okay, we got it. We don't got time to argue with you. We gotta go to work.
You would let Floyd Mayweather, who is pound for pound the most successful boxer in male history, you would let him, in a year's time, compete at the same weight against women?
Yeah, if there's a weak category.
This is nonsense. I'm sorry.
It's absolute
garbage. How could you possibly countenance putting Floyd Mayweather, the most dangerous boxer, pound for pound, arguably in the history of boxing, into a ring with women born to female bodies? This is where the argument becomes utterly ridiculous. And it's not transphobic to say so, it's common sense.
The left-wing gender insanity being pushed on our children is an act of child abuse. Very simple. Here's my plan to stop the chemical, physical, and emotional mutilation of our youth. On day one, I will revoke Joe Biden's cruel policies on so-called gender-affirming care. Ridiculous. A process that includes giving kids puberty blockers, mutating their physical appearance, and ultimately performing surgery on minor children. Can you believe this? I will sign a new executive order instructing every federal agency to cease all programs that promote the concept of sex and gender transition at any age. I will then ask Congress to permanently stop federal taxpayer dollars from being used to promote or pay for these procedures and pass a law prohibiting child sexual mutilation in all 50 states. It'll go very quickly. I will declare that any hospital or healthcare provider that participates in the chemical or physical mutilation of minor youth will no longer meet federal health and safety standards for Medicaid and Medicare and will be terminated from the program immediately. Furthermore, I will support the creation of a private right of action for victims to sue doctors who have unforgivably performed these procedures on minor children. The Department of Justice will investigate Big Pharma and the big hospital networks to determine whether they have deliberately covered up horrific long-term side effects of sex transitions in order to get rich at the expense of vulnerable patients, in this case, very vulnerable. We will also investigate whether Big Pharma or others have illegally marketed hormones and puberty blockers which are in no way licensed or approved for this use. My Department of Education will inform states and school districts that if any teacher or school official suggests to a child that they could be trapped in the wrong body, they will be faced with severe consequences, including potential civil rights violations for sex discrimination and the elimination of federal funding. As part of our new credentialing body for teachers, we will promote positive education about the nuclear family, the roles of mothers and fathers, and celebrating rather than erasing the things that make men and women different and unique. I will ask Congress to pass a bill establishing that the only genders recognized by the United States government are male and female, and they are assigned at birth. The bill will also make clear that Title IX prohibits men from participating in women's sports, and we will protect the rights of parents from being forced to allow their minor child to assume a gender which is new and an identity without the parent's consent. The identity will not be new, and it will not be without parental consent. No serious country should be telling its children that they were born with the wrong gender, a concept that was never heard of In all of human history, nobody's ever heard of this, what's happening today. It was all when the radical left invented it just a few years ago. Under my leadership, this madness will end. Thank you very much.
How do you guys feel about schools teaching gender ideology to students?
Absolutely against it.
You're against it? Why?
Because it confuses children. Innocent children are impressionable, and when you poison that well, you can never take that poison out.
My opinion is that it's too much information at one time. There's plenty of other things that children should be focusing on rather than getting confused about their identity. The school shouldn't be doing it for them.
Personally, we're going to respect pretty much anything anybody wants to call themselves. The pronouns, we don't really get beyond him and her, they and them. We don't really need to use them to articulate a thought or what have you. And the only exception to that is the N-word. Outsiders, well, my friend said I could. And it's really disgusting because they love our rhythms but don't want to help defend our blues. And then when our own people use said N-word, it's really disgusting. This part in this, and the coldest part in the N-word thing amongst our own people, is that a great deal of Negroes believe that we perceive ourselves better than. However, we know that all of our peoples are better than that word. And then there's the whole thing about Black, African American, even more, not actually being what our original ancestors called themselves, because there was nobody else here to make them need to label themselves something, if that makes sense. Hopefully.
REX